Hello, hello, hello. This is Gretch from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Alison Martin. Alison, excited to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here, Gretch. Thanks for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Super excited to have you on and talk about all the awesome things that you're doing. And of course, before we do that, I want to read a little bit more about Alison so you can hear about some of those awesome things. And Alison is the founder and managing director of Engage Mentoring, an innovative technology firm that works with clients of all sizes to create leadership pipelines by leveraging software that provides access to skill-based mentoring relationships. With an impressive background and work, nearly 2 decades of experience in nonprofits, beginning with 4 years working in higher education and on to executive director at two different health-related nonprofit organizations, Alison's passion for developing talent led her to start a consulting firm in 2011. Her work consulting with larger organizations, nonprofits, and companies to construct mentoring programs led to the development of Engage Mentoring in 2019. And let me just say, by talking with Alison a little bit before we recorded this, some of the research, she's doing so many different things and awesome things to be able to kind of impact the world. And I absolutely love how she's able to kind of marry the two, technology and relationships, which I think sometimes we can kind of have them in their silos. And she's also the author of the book, Learning to Lead Through Mentoring. And I was just bragging on her about her telling her story and how it just really resonated with me and all the awesome things that she does. And of course, she has numerous accomplishments: founder, executive director, Forbes Business Council member, Jeffson Award member, so many different things. But I love that she said her proudest accomplishment is raising two incredible humans. So, Alison, excited to have you on the show. You ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Absolutely, Gretch. Thanks so much for having me. That was a very kind introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy for me to read it. You're doing all the hard work and awesome things. So I guess before we jumped into all the awesome things you're doing, I wanted to rewind the clock a little bit, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I started out in higher ed, and actually, I started way back in higher ed, but had a long career in nonprofit, and so I led a couple of different health-related organizations before starting a nonprofit that really was focused on at the time helping to support women at all stages of their career. And early on, it was just a exercise in trying to bring great people together to share and to learn, and over the course of that. What ultimately ended up being a nonprofit desired to construct a mentoring program, and at the time didn't find what was available on the marketplace. We looked at different software and curriculum, didn't find exactly what we needed, and so I ended up contracting a developer to create our platform. And back in 2012, and then realized it had a lot of other implications. So beyond the nonprofit, which is still in existence and doing great things, we are able to take the product, if you will, and start working with companies to ensure that access to relationships is a part of their talent strategies, and really transform workplace and workplace culture as a result, for something that seems so simple, and yet we take for granted that people are pouring into others in a mentoring capacity. But we believe that by formalizing that, you can ensure that your leaders are really engaging and developing their people, and that your employees feel supported and developed and have access to critical relationships that are going to make their careers happen. And for me, I'm super passionate about mentoring, as I shared in my book. My early background was very challenged, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for really incredible mentors who saw my leadership potential and poured into me. And so that's where I get my passion to do the work that we get to do every day.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think I was listening to an interview that you did, and you said a lot of times people will mentor people that are kind of further back on the journey of who they were. And I think they can kind of see themselves in you. So I love, of course, hearing that about, in your book, but also, the work that you do, because I think by being able to kind of, for lack of a better term, formalize and have the technology that marries the two, it kind of, I think, ensures like an overall better experience for these organizations and the people within.
It does. And the irony is that mentoring, we often think of relationship first, learning second, right?
Mm.
And so again, back to what you just said, which is people tend to mentor and sponsor younger versions of themselves, which is what we naturally do. When you see someone who's a younger version of you, and you just want to wrap them, with your arms and share all the things so that they don't have the same struggles that you did, right? It's what we naturally are inclined to do as humans. But when our programs are structured to be learning first, relationship second. And what I mean by that is mentoring is actually a powerfully efficient way for people to learn and an often overlooked strategy. And so we match people based on topics they want to learn more about, without those other identifiers that typically forge relationships and give people the opportunity to uncover the core humanity that exists within all of us, and to really create cultures where everyone feels supported and has access to those relationships that might not have otherwise occurred naturally, right? So it's that learning first, relationships second, but it's that access to relationships piece, and one of the very key drivers of what makes an employee want to come to an organization and what makes them want to stay and build a career there.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And actually, the more I think about it, like me going through my journey in my life, a lot of times when you have that kind of action focus or something around like actually building those connections and relationships, it seems like they have a stronger bond, for lack of a better term. So kind of sounds like you have that same kind of philosophy in everything that you all have been able to build, because when you have that learning focus or that foundational piece, it starts to say, okay, let's learn these things together, and it creates that bond from there.
Mhm. It does. It's incredible. And we also don't force people into a long-term relationship where it may or may not be a great fit. So it's a formalized, 3 1-hour sessions between mentor and mentee to lay a foundation of a relationship, like you said, that allows them to hopefully, it will span beyond that, and they'll have a resource they can connect with, throughout their careers, based on that early experience that they got to work with them on a specific topic, right? So it's a blend of all the things that really make a program go right, and but doing it in digestible pieces that really have real outcomes tied to it as well.
Yeah, and I feel like that even counteracts people that say, "Oh, I don't know if I have enough time." There's not enough hours in the day, but to have them in those digestible pieces allows people to again build those connections and relationships, but again be able to make that impact within the organization.
Well, and what you just said about time is so true, except it's 1 to 2 hours per month to
Mm.
impact others and spot talent in your organization, build leadership capacity. And frankly, if your leaders aren't willing to do that, that's a real problem, right? And that's one that's where we start. A lot of times, companies will come to us and say, who needs mentoring? Our new employees. You know who needs mentoring? Our middle managers. Yes, they do. But who's mentoring your leaders, right? And often we're looking to the leaders to have all the answers, but really who's pouring into them? And so we have programs that actually allow those leaders to connect with other leaders externally, and that's the real power and the real magic and the value proposition that we provide. Beyond just being a traditional mentoring program where everybody's looking up within the organization.
Yeah, I love that. And, at any stage, any part of the journey that you are, professionally, you can always kind of, for lack of a better term, sharpen the saw, and you get the opportunity to kind of get better. So I love that you have that opportunity for people, even in leadership, to be able to kind of, to progress and develop themselves. And I think when you start to do that or prioritize that, or it may be like a better term, invest in that, then you start to see that as part of the culture, part of the DNA of organizations, which I think ultimately is where, those organizations start to take off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really little things, right, that make a huge difference and go a long way, when it comes to, and also even generationally, employees are asking different questions as they're evaluating where they want to go, right? And so making sure that we're building environments that are conducive to the changing face of the workforce and what is most valued by the employees today.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I know we touched on it a little bit, everything you're doing with engagements. Or could you take us through a little bit more on how it works, how you're making that impact, or anything additional that we didn't kind of touch on?
Yeah. So our primary product, like I said earlier, is the Engaged Leadership Program because we believe it starts with leaders. So regardless of the size of the company, that's where we would start. And in that program, it is an end-to-end leadership development program that is unique. So leadership development programs are not new, but a lot of times we're teaching people, the concepts and ideas, and certainly again, those programs are fantastic. But this is a way to tactically engage leaders in not only being a mentee, but also being a mentor mentor, in a program that requires 1 to 2 hours per month at times of their choosing. So that's our premier program. And again, it's an end-to-end solution. So when we work with a company, they simply identify their people leaders and their high potential individual contributors and send out a communication that invites them to apply to a program that's 1 to 2 hours per month. And then our team takes it from there. So it is a tech-enabled leadership development program that we fully implement. So we're not a software that we just hand over to people, and we're also not just a leadership development program that teaches concepts. We're one that really engages leaders, and then we do have the program or the ability to work with companies on a broader scale at an enterprise-wide level to build customized programs that are internally focused only. And so right now our product, because of the global clients that we work with, is deployed in 30 countries. So we're really proud of that.
Nice.
And so we have a scalable technology that really does make mentoring accessible regardless of the scale of the company. But what I appreciate most about our programs and our products is often in smaller companies or mid-sized companies, they don't have access to resources like this, or wouldn't have the resources to be able to support them themselves, like a Google or Microsoft, or a big company that has a widely recognizable name. And so the ability for us to be able to impact workplace cultures of all sizes, work with clients of all sizes, is something that's really key to the work that we do, and it excites us, to be able to have that impact as well with companies that are growing.
Yeah, and I imagine like, and I've always felt like whenever you have a product or service, or you're doing anything, of course, having those that proof of concept, I guess you can say, where you have the one to one, and okay, this is great for this team or this person, and so on and so forth. But when you're able to quote unquote make that impact to scale, that's when you hit another level. So that accessibility piece that you talked about really hit home with me as well too, because I think you get to make a bigger impact, and you're able to ensure that there's a consistency, maybe is the right word, in the services or the offering or the impact that you can have across different countries, different organizations, no matter how big or how small.
Yeah, we tell every client that we can start small if we need to, but the home run for us is when we become part of the value proposition for how you would tell a prospective employee why they'd want to come work here, and that we're part of that value proposition. So the home run is that we're open to everyone, but we also have the ability to start with a small pilot, right? And really grow that program once we build some momentum and build some metrics around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of that becoming a part of the foundational brand DNA to attract talent and, of course, retain that talent as well. So, do you feel like that's part of what I would like to call your secret sauce? And this could be for yourself individually, the organization, or a combination of both. But is it that ability to kind of understand the technology piece, but also have a lot of experience and expertise in that relationship building, the community piece? Do you feel like being able to marry those two is really what sets you all apart and makes you unique?
It is. So as I said earlier, we rolled out our product in 2012, and in the beginning, we were operating more traditionally, going after really large companies, nonprofits, and universities. And we learned so much, as you can imagine, in the implementation of those programs about how do you market, how do you onboard, how do you train, make sure people have context around how to approach the program and the relationships and the outcomes that we're tracking, and being able to track metrics with our clients. And so we were able to take all of that and distill that into a software product that now is a turnkey solutions that addresses all of those things. We've now become an end-to-end solution for companies, regardless of the size. So often companies think that well, if we need a mentoring program, all we need is an Excel document, or we just need, we can use this free mentoring tool that we have in one of our LMS tools or whatever. And software is such a small piece of that, right? And so it's ensuring that we've got context, that we're mindful about how the matching is occurring, that there's a plan in place for the customer service aspect. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but our team takes care of all those details regardless of the scale of the client. And that's what I'm really most proud of, because we've taken what we know works and are able to apply it at various sizes from a company perspective, and we can start small if we need to, which is usually more digestible than going enterprise wide right off the bat.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I feel like that speaks so much to like my overall kind of philosophy around technology, which is that when you have that expertise, that knowledge, you have that experience, case study, all those things, and when you're able to kind of again marry that with the technology, that's when you're able to really make a huge impact because you're not just saying, hey, let's just use this software. I don't have any experience. You're actually marrying those two. You have the experience, you've rolled up your sleeves, so to speak, and now this software is just supporting and amplifying it, for lack of a better term, so that it can make a
Mhm.
bigger and better impact.
Yeah. That's exactly right. You hit it on the head, and that's what I think we're most proud of is that we're mentoring experts in our own right, and we know how to do this. And people don't wake up and say, "Oh my gosh, I need a mentoring program yesterday," right? But it's incredible in terms of what we are able to impact, which are huge key drivers in an organization from a talent strategy perspective, whether that's succession planning or knowledge transfer, just building leadership capacity at all levels. Again, it normally is a heavy lift and something that people kind of shy away from, but we've really made it easy, and made it uh, constructed in such a way that meets people where they are. And I would
Mm.
argue there's no better way to really meet the needs of your workforce than by offering a program like this that allows them to self-direct the topics and the mentors that they get to work with. And the byproduct of that is the relationships that develop as a result have huge implications on retention. Yeah, we're really proud of the work that we do here.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And it just speaks so much to like, I think some of the best leaders are people that are quote unquote coaches and able to meet people where they are, understand all those things. So I love how that ties into, what I think is, it sounds like you do as well, to the future
Yeah.
of leadership. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit. And I want to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
Oh, an app, a book, or a habit that I have. So it's interesting that you asked that question. I would number one, I would say meditation. So just having that pause on a daily basis has transformed my life. So just having that space to remove all the thoughts from your mind to the extent that you can, and having that space has really been significant for me. But I think I just make quiet time every morning to reflect, to read, and to get organized for the day. And that has really been, again, it helps me get grounded first thing, get real clear on what my priorities are for the day, and to allow me to be less reactive to things as they come up. And so that quiet space in the morning with both reading, meditation, and then you mentioned an app. I also use the Strides app to help track daily habits that I want to instill as well. And those have evolved and changed as things become a habit. You can adopt more habits, and it's called the habit stacking. So I use that app as well.
Nice. Absolutely love that. I haven't checked out that app. I have to check it out definitely now. And because, I think, and I always butcher the quote, but it's like your minutes become your days become your months becomes your years. So kind of sounds like that app, speaks directly to that. But I also love the fact of being able to kind of create that space, create that quiet time, especially at the beginning of the day, because, anytime you're any type of leader, but especially when you're a CEO and entrepreneur, business owner, I always say part-time firefighter because there's always something that happens. But when you can to create that space, create that quiet time, it allows you to just kind of be at peace, to even plan or just figure out like what you're going to do, and to be able to quiet time, have that meditation. Those marrying those two things again allows you to, I think, be a little bit more at peace for the things that happen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny too because I'm not an early morning person. You would think that I would. I'm
Me
just
neither.
not. I'm a late night person. So I've always aspired to be an early morning person. But last year I had the opportunity to travel for an extended period while working overseas, and so as a result, because of the time difference, I had all day to master my morning routine. And so I did that for actually 3 months. And so when I came back, there were things that I developed during that time that really stuck and have really absolutely transformed my life. And so I now see the value in getting up a little earlier and having that space to reflect before getting the day started, and how it just allows me to be a much better leader and much more grounded in my approach and in handling the day to day things that come up in work and in life.
Yeah, I love that. I'm very much so a night owl myself. So, but I've been able to kind of transition a little bit, but it's happened over time, and I still have my mornings where I'm like, I'd rather be up, a lot later than earlier on. But again, it's just sometimes when the pull of the day kind of gets its best is less, and so you don't have as many things that are kind of grabbing at you. So, absolutely love those hacks, and so I wanted to ask you now for what I call more of a CEO nugget. So this little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. It's something that might be from your book, or if you were to hop into a time machine, you might tell your younger business self.
Um, I think it's don't be afraid to make mistakes. And we talk about failing forward, but often growth happens because you found nine things that didn't work and then you find the one that does. And so often we get discouraged when we're all afraid of failure, right? And we also are, the fear drives a lot of decisions and keeps us small a lot of times. And what I've learned is that when things don't go the way you anticipate that they'll go, it's one step closer to figuring out what does, versus being viewed as, oh my gosh, this is a horrible catastrophe. And so we've gotten really accustomed with being a inspired work in progress, about all things, and recognizing that anytime something doesn't go the way we intended, it's an opportunity to pivot, it's an opportunity to learn, and it's an opportunity to apply. And I think that's gotten us to where we are today, although it can be exhausting, to continually do that. But if you approach everything as learning, it becomes less traumatic when things don't go the way that you hoped that they would, right? And so, but the key is to really learn from that experience and apply it differently. So, my advice would be to just release fear and take the next best step every day, and do your very best.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Not be afraid to make those mistakes. And, again, it's just understanding that and having a mentality, may be a better way to say it, a failure not being final unless you throw in the towel. And I think even, when I was reading your intro, you talked about landing on your feet and how impactful that is. But I think when you are able to take those steps and realize, or even have that mentality that, I always say that things are not working against me, they're working for me. And if you have
Mhm.
that mentality, even when things don't go the way you want them to go, you know that, hey, I didn't find the one way that worked, but I found one way that didn't. And so now I have 99 others, or whatever the answer is to how I can make those things work. But if you have that mentality, you're always kind of testing, trying out things, and it can be frustrating, as you said, but you still kind of have that excitement around trying something new and seeing if it'll work or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I love that you said that as well, because it's um, just recognizing that we're all a work in progress and things are happening for us, not to us. And so that allows you to approach things that happen as a learning opportunity, and learning, looking for the lesson, or recognizing that things are, the things that will be are meant to be, right? And so, not to get too spiritual, but that's this idea that if one door closes, another one opens. Everybody talks about that, but I look back on missed opportunities and things that didn't go the way we wanted to as not only being powerful learning lessons, but also opening doors we never could have anticipated, because we did apply the learning, and as a result, we're able to achieve opportunities and things beyond our wildest dreams at that point, right? So each one of those instances where things didn't go the way we wanted, there's a reason for it, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely would echo that. And I don't know if you ever heard the Steve Jobs commencement speech at Stanford, when he talked about a lot of times we forget that the story of our lives are, they're all dots and the instances and things that happen, but we can only start to connect those dots when we start to look backwards and when you realize that, oh, I didn't get that opportunity because it led me here. And at the time we're frustrated. We're like, I really wanted that opportunity, that client, whatever it is. But in reality, by not getting that opportunity, it actually propelled you in the way that, end up being sometimes better off for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not easy
Awesome.
to do at the time or see at the time, but and like
Exactly.
you said, in retrospect, what was the name of that speech you mentioned?
The commencement speech, the Stanford commencement speech from Steve Jobs. So yeah, it's
Oh,
extremely
of
powerful.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that though. That was
Yeah,
good.
hey, look, I need to watch it every day, so that needs to be part of my quiet time, I guess you can say, because again, you can be frustrated by the things not happening the way you want at that present, but we have to kind of remember that, if it happened for us before, it can happen, for our good, later on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. We're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So, Allison, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Um, what is being a CEO? So I think first and foremost, I have the privilege to work with incredible people who are way smarter than me in so many different areas, to really kind of build the ship together. And so I think being a CEO means seeing the best in others, and really kind of bringing out that potential, and also having the vision, and the sort of tenacity to kind of steer the ship a little bit, and um, yeah, it's an honor and a privilege, to be able to sit in that space, and then many times having to roll up your sleeves and come alongside people to again how I think it really is, it comes down to people. It comes down to how um, how we're ensuring that everyone is in the right positions and the right seats, and that we're painting a picture that is steering the ship in the right direction, and ultimately we're the ones responsible for the success or failure of any endeavor that we go into. So it's a huge privilege, huge responsibility too.
Absolutely. But I absolutely love that definition, especially to seeing the best in others. I feel like that's right along the lines of a really great mentor. So I love how that kind of, supports everything that you do, because I think anytime you think of a mentor, sometimes they see so many great things in you and they want to kind of bring that out. And I think any great CEO is going to do the same thing. They see the potential, they see the opportunity, and they, trying to help you to reach that. And I think any great leader has a really great team around them, and I think that allows things to really go to a different level, so that you can reach that vision, you can exceed it, and you can do all the awesome things that ultimately you're capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great question. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for embodying that even more. So, what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find about all the awesome things you and team are working on.
Oh, sure. Well, certainly, if you're thinking about developing your people and really the strategies and tactics for really developing your leaders, we would love to help. So you can reach us on the web at engagementoring.com, and certainly on LinkedIn. We have a presence there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Alison Martin, with one L. I always have to remind people of that, but I'd be happy to connect, and again, our goal is to really learn what organizations are doing and how we can come alongside and make that lift a lot lighter, and have more impact and reach more people at scale, because so many HR departments are so strapped doing so many other things, and so ensuring that learning and development is happening at all levels, which ultimately feeds into retention and attraction of top talent. And so if those are things that resonate with you, we'd love to talk to you.
Absolutely. And of course, to make it even easier, we'll have the links and information in the show notes too, so that everybody can follow up with you and make sure we get to Allison with one L on LinkedIn as well. Well, truly appreciate you again, Allison. You're doing so many phenomenal things. I think sometimes we forget like how foundational mentors have been in our lives. So I love that you've taken that, and you and your team are just running with it. And we see that that becomes part of your brand, part of your mission, the attraction, the retaining of talent, all those things. So I appreciate you for, of course, sharing that with us today. Of course, for doing it even more. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Oh, thank you, Krish. It's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to have this conversation. So thank you so much for having me.